Call the meeting to order of the Public Utilities Commission, December 23rd, 2014. First item of business is to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held November 25th of 2014.
I'd offer that motion.
A second.
Okay, motion second to approve the minutes of the November 25th meeting of the PUC. Is there further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, we will hear from the city manager, who will give us the utility director's report for the month of December.
All right, the activity reports for every department are found in the report itself, and I think Mr. McCabe has put together his director's report, which basically identifies a few of the administrative type things that he'd like to bring to your attention. The first item would be that the meter reader has provided retirement notice, and we have set up a system for temporarily handling the meter reading duties. So we're backing up that particular activity. That's one of those departments where, we don't have 10 people. So when one person leaves, we got to find other people who have been cross-trained into knowing what's going on. So that's being taken care of, and we'll be working on filling that position in the future. We are, among other things, looking at the mobile radio collection system. We had a couple the last meter reading didn't go as well. We had to go back a few times. We're trying to work those issues out. One thing that I guess is good to note is that the last electric outage where the squirrel met its demise, that it did identify that we needed to maybe coordinate our operations with our emergency operations plan. So when something big like a tornado comes through town, we'll enact the emergency operations plan. But when little things, we just kind of sometimes don't address that in the same fashion. So Jim has coordinated and aligned the small activities like a small power outage to respond in the same manner so that we get training. So when anything happens, we follow the plan. And so he's aligning that with the PUC activities, and that should just make our future responses even better. Another item that is kind of ongoing, we're coming to the conclusion, and that is the removal of the Herman Heights Water Tower. You have an item on the agenda to let the bid on that. We have people who have antennas, Verizon, KNUJ, KJLY, Brown County, T-Mobile, AT&T, have either scheduled to get their antennas off before the demolition of the water tower, or in some cases they're dragging their feet and their antennas may come down with the water tower. And so we've been trying to get them to mobilize and deal with their antennas. So that will occur, shortly in the month of January. And then, let's see, one thing that we did have brought to our attention again, which I think is a good thing to do, and that we're going to be looking at PUC employee badges. Some people, especially in the wintertime when maybe you're not wearing your PUC shirt, but you don't have your PUC coat on, then when you come up to a residence and you're knocking the door, the resident can say, there's your badge, and there's some sense of reliability saying it's legit. If you don't wear a PUC hat and you don't wear a PUC jacket, the question arises. So we're gonna work on that. We typically have badges for emergency responses anyway. So if a tornado come through, all the PUC employees and the city will have to have badges so that they can get in and out. Because it's like nobody comes in unless you have a reason to be in. So this again coordinates with our emergency operations by having badges for all the employees. So it serves two purposes. And so that will be done in the very near future also. And it's a relatively inexpensive thing to do. If you ever notice, you go to any school, and all the teachers and the administration have always got a lanyard with a badge, and so it does help out. The other activities that you'll notice, whether it be electric distribution, electric production, gas, you can obviously see what's going on in each one of those particular departments.
Okay, thank you. I would also like to recognize our Employee of the Month, Steve Sukup. Steve is the Electric Distribution Department Supervisor and has been with the PUC since October 17th of 1969. That's 44 years. Steve has done a super job, and we wish him congratulations.
I make a motion to receive and order filed the report regarding utility operations during December 2014.
Second.
Okay. Motion and second to accept, or to receive and order filed the utility director's report. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, we will receive notice that the city PUC's mileage reimbursement rate is increasing to 57.5 cents per mile effective January 1, 2015, concurrent with the mileage rate set by the U.S. Internal Revenue Service.
So apparently there's quite a lag there.
Yeah. Yeah, this was discussed at the city council that, as gas prices are plummeting, the IRS tax rate is going up. So there is at least a 6-month lag or more.
Appear that way. I'd offer the motion and to receive notice that the city PUC's mileage reimbursement rate is increasing to 57.5 cents per mile and effective January 1, 2015, concurrent with the mileage rate set by the United States Internal Revenue Service.
Second.
Okay, motion made and second to receive notice regarding the mileage rate increase. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4A, we'll consider a resolution adopting the 2015 budget.
I'd move to approve the resolution and waive the reading adopting the 2015 budget for the New Ulm Public Utilities.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to approve the, I'm sorry, do we need a call a roll on this? All right, in that case, please call the roll.
Commissioner Bernick,
Yes.
Commissioner Heine,
Yes.
President Steinke,
Yes. Okay. Next item is 4B, consider authorizing sump pump connection inspections as directed by the wastewater department. And I believe Mr. O'Connor has a presentation for us.
Yes. Good evening, Commissioners, President Steinke. I'm Dan O'Connor with the wastewater treatment plant. We're going to talk about the next steps the utilities would like to do to try to control some of the I&I coming in to the wastewater plant. So what exactly is I&I? There's two parts to I&I, infiltration and inflow. The inflow is water entering the sanitary sewer through illegal connections, sump pumps, roof leaders. And then infiltration is when groundwater enters your sanitary through faulty pipes, faulty manholes, and in some cases, when you get heavy rains, right through the manhole lids in the streets when they're underwater. We've been a little proactive with that, and I'll cover that in a little bit, but our collection system in New Ulm consists of about 90 miles of underground piping, 85% of that being in 8-inch pipes, either plastic or cast iron and some of the old clay lines in town. Some of them I think are as old as the early 1900s. And the majority of the flow in town does flow gravity. Our plan is designed to treat about 6.7 7 million a day. Our dry weather flow is about 2 million. Our wet weather flow is about 2.4, 2.5, meaning the rainier months, the wet months, we obviously treat more water. Why is I concern? Generally speaking, that 8-inch line in front of your home can handle 200 houses, typical wastewater flow. But as soon as you add 6 or 8 or 10 sump pumps to that same 8-inch line, you can overwhelm it. You can have some sanitary overflows. A typical residential sump pump can pump anywhere from 5 to 20 gallons a minute, depending on what size discharge pipe it has. Generally, that's an inch and a quarter PVC pipe, and depending on how far it has to pump it from the basement floor to the outlet. This just gives you a picture of what kind of million gallons we treat in a month. Going back to June of 2012, we had a total rainfall amount of 1 inch, and we treated 72 million gallons. In 2013, we had 6 inches total rainfall. We treated 79 million gallons. And this particular summer, with our 100-year rain event in 2014, we treated 95 million gallons of water. So just some quick, simple math there. From 14 to 12, the same month of the year, we treated almost 1 million gallons more a day this June than we did back in 2012. It maybe doesn't reflect it as much in 2013, only 7 million more than 2012, but it sort of depends on how saturated our ground is to begin with. And I'm assuming 13 was a little bit of a dry year. This is just a graph I put together, and I talked about dry weather flow and wet weather flow. You can see how January, February, and then at the end of the year, October, November, December, generally not a lot of rain. Our flows are down. The green bars are 2014. We had a pretty wet spring. We had a pretty good snowpack last year, and as you can see, June of 2014, we treated on average 3.1, 3.2 million gallons of water. This is just a snapshot of our SCADA. Probably not the easiest to see, but I have it highlighted on the peak, and that is telling us that at that particular time, probably about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we were treating 6,242 gallons per minute. If you look at the line where it's more flat and consistent, that's about 2,000 gallons a minute. That day, August 17th, our last significant rainfall this summer, amounted to just shy of 1 inch of rain. And generally, if it's more of an infiltration issue, you don't have that spike. You have a gradual spike and a gradual downturn in flow, and you can see that it peaked up, and within an hour it was back to normal, within 2 hours back to normal, meaning that most of this issue is inflow related versus infiltration.
Dan, could you just mention what SCADA is?
Supervisory control and data acquisition. It's basically our computer to monitor our whole plant. So what have we done to start to combat the issues? Back in 2010, our engineering GIS department, with help of our purchasing, we ordered some specific software to start modeling our sanitary collection system. And at the same time, we purchased flow meters at the wastewater plant to start compiling some baseline data, trying to figure out what should be flowing down Minnesota Streets collection system when it's not raining compared to a rain event. And we've got some pretty good data. And then the next step we did on the wastewater end was we purchased a video truck. I came in here and I gave you guys a little overview of what we've been using it for last October. You okayed that purchase the budget meeting of November 2012. Since we've had that truck, we've inspected about 2/3 of the city. On a good day, our operator can get about a half a mile in a day. And obviously, living in Minnesota, we can't videotape and do that year-round. Wastewater generally is that ambient temperature, and the temperature outside will cause steaming issues in pipes, and it just doesn't give you the clarity or the video you'd like to see. So we do have 2/3 of it done. It's just a picture of the truck. You're opening a manhole, you're lowering a camera in and videotaping the sanitary. We're using a program that's sort of a nationally recognized program as far as how we rate the pipe as far as structural or as far as maintenance. And really, one of the pushes behind the video equipment camera, it was I&I, but it was also the way the city operates is the city street department maintains the lines, meaning they jet them, they clean them, and engineering designs them and builds them, and then when it's all said and done, the PUC wastewater owns them. And prior to having this video camera truck, we weren't really involved in any of it besides saying, okay, it's yours, let's try to keep it working. So once again, we go out and we're looking for defects, structural. We're helping street, saying, hey, you guys just jetted this particular part in town and it's really not quite so clean yet. Maybe you should jet it again. We're looking at construction features, different miscellaneous items, and inflow infiltration investigations. Some construction, post and pre rehabilitation and assessment. Maybe make some recommendations to the engineering as far as some streets that are in tough shape, some infrastructure that needs to maybe be put on the front burner rather than the back burner. And we've added 2 projects where we found some pipes that have had very, very maybe not complete structural damage, but a lot of joint defects and a lot of infiltration coming through some of these joints in the infrastructure. So we have added a couple projects to the 2015 list, and I see that's my one typo, hopefully 2,105 capital. We're going to try to hit that next year and not wait for 90 years. And we did come across a collapsed pipe, a newer PVC pipe out by the New Ulm airport. And so now we'd like to take it a step further, and it's gets a little maybe intrusive to the residents of New Ulm, but we have the authority and the ability to inspect residents to make sure that their sump pumps are plumbed properly. It's been in our regulations for as long as I know, but we've never really done that manual inspection. So we'd like to do some public education. I think it starts tonight. I think I'm on TV, maybe some people are watching. We're going to do a press release in the New Ulm Journal, and we're going to add some of these things to the utility bill stuffers and the newsletters that the utilities already do. Maybe just, some education for the public. Some people don't know what that pump is in the basement floor and what it really does. So, and then follow up with commercial and industrial. And basically, I think we're going to probably, next step would be the downtown area. A lot of flat roof buildings, not a lot of good collection for stormwater, and take it a couple steps at a time. This is one diagram that I think will make a flyer here probably this spring, just giving you a simple diagram of how things should be plumbed in your house and how things shouldn't be plumbed in your house.
And Dan, there's part of the reason for this, the reason you're doing this is because there's a cost for treating water.
There is a cost. There
And
is a
so if
cost.
you're
There's an
treating clean
electrical
water-
cost to pump,
Yeah.
and for the most part, our plant can handle it. But we had a huge rain event in 2010 that required us to add about $25,000 worth of ferric chloride to meet our phosphorus limit. Because of the hydraulic load that summer, we lost our treatment biologically and had to supplement it with chemical. This past summer, believe it or not, we We didn't lose our phosphorus treatment with that rain event, but there is a cost associated, and obviously as permits come down from the state and parameters are ratcheted down and they're tighter, obviously the less amount of water we treat, the better, because everything's based on kilograms or pounds, and if you have a larger flow, that number might stay the same as far as the analysis, but if your flow is 2 times as much, you're releasing twice as much pollutants back into the environment. So our plan is to hire some summer interns. Hopefully maybe get a couple kids that are maybe in construction management or GISing or geography or engineering from MSU, or maybe some local kids, and give them some training and give them some badges. Notify the residents with a door hanger. And once again, this has never been attempted in New Ulm. It's been done in numerous cities around the area, but we don't know if it's going to take 3 months or 3 years to get through this. So we're just throwing it out there that we think this is necessary. With this rain event we had in June of this year, I've been at the plant for 20 years. I think the flood of '97, we treated about 6 million gallons, still beneath our permit limitation or our design flow. This summer we treated over 10 million gallons, June 19th. So with that, if anybody's got any questions or comments.
I have just one question. Does the homeowner who willfully connects to the storm sewer, I mean, is his reasoning because he's got a small lot and he doesn't want his backyard soaked, or what is some of the reasoning, I guess, to willfully hook up to the sewer,
Right.
sanitary sewer?
It could be that it goes down that floor drain a little faster than it goes out the plastic PVC that runs up the wall and out to the yard.
So it could be a basement flooding situation where you get rid of the water quicker?
Right.
Okay.
Right. And are we gonna go out and find 50% sump pumps hooked up illegally? We don't know that. I don't think that's the case, but if you're in a low-lying area that has a high water table and you've got a sump pump in maybe 3 corners of your basement, and they're all going into a floor drain, that amounts to a lot of water in a short period of time, especially when we were saturated like we were this summer.
Okay.
It can amount to a lot of water.
Yeah, there are areas of New Ulm that, due to the soils underneath their house being more sand and gravelly, they don't even have a sump pump.
Yeah.
And then there's areas that are built on clay that in essence the groundwater is right there and it has no place to go except your basement, and they do. Many people that I've talked to, through the years have always said it's just easier. If you have an exterior hose, black hose, plastic hose running in your backyard, every time you mow the grass, you gotta move that hose. And if you forget to put it out, you're dumping your water out and it's pouring right into your foundation, and it's just making a cycle, and you forget about it. So I think it's a convenience factor for the most part, but I think we have to get past that through the education efforts that we're proposing, and then back that up with the ability to check in some areas in the 14th North area where we had some backups this year. There were some pump hoses coming out of every basement window that you didn't see 2 days before the rainfall event. And so those individuals, they couldn't put it down the sanitary sewer because that was backed up. So they had to get it out somehow. And so I think there's some areas that are prone to it. Mm-hmm. And it's just a matter of, it's easier to put it into your mop sink, bucket sink, or it's easier to connect it directly into your sink drain or a floor drain. You don't have to worry about it until the system gets overloaded, things back up, and now it's coming in your basement.
Yep.
The inspections themselves, I see the biggest problem being that so many houses are probably empty during the day, or both, you know.
Yeah, and
everybody's at
I
work at
think when
school
we,
and that sort
when
of-
we write the job description for these summer interns, it's going to be maybe a 10 to 7 shift or noon to 9 shift, noon to 8 shift. Because that's one of the battles is how do you get in and when do you get in? So like I said, we're not really sure if we're gonna get half the city done this summer. We wanna do it in a timely manner so everybody's treated fairly. We're assuming that most people might get by with a $50 fix. Other people might be looking at, core drilling into the side of their house to get that pipe out where it could be $200, $300, $400. But we want to do it as in a timely fashion. But like I said, it's sort of an unknown how quick and efficient we can be and how fast we can get into houses and how many we can get done in a week.
And I would expect that, there'll be some analysis as to what parts of town are anticipated to be creating
Sure.
the worst flows. Why focus on the sand gravel areas of the community where they don't have sump pumps? So our data will be set up so that we would identify those areas most prone to do this and hit them first, because those are the people we need to do the inspection. So there's a lot of work that's going to have to go into scheduling and putting this thing together. And, it's come to the point, through the years that we've always known this was here. We've always known it had an impact. And now
We talked about it a lot, but we
we
didn't.
talked about it.
We
It's
didn't
time
move
to
it
move
forward. So
I would suggest that we also couple, in the education part of this, as we're trying to tell homeowners what the implications are and how to remedy the situation, but to also educate people on just managing groundwater around their homes.
right.
And, it's amazing how many people have houses where the landscaping is inviting the water to come in and they're just managing it with their sump pump.
Right. Yeah,
And,
15 years ago, you never heard of a rain garden.
Right.
Maybe you did, but not a lot of people knew what it was. So there's ways to do it, and we talked about different ways on how we do these inspections. We just went through a meter change out, or water's still working on a meter change out. We looked at point of sale, and once again, that's not that fast, efficient, effective way to do it, because you have utility guys in there replacing the gas meter, replacing the electric meter, water meter, whatever it might be, but you're not going to hit the whole town that way. So we thought this would be the best way to do it, to say, hey, we're going to inspect everybody and see what happens.
Do you know of any communities where our size, for instance, where the city would say, what the heck, let's just do it the old way and let's not put this extra cost onto the homeowner?
No,
Okay.
not with the way not the way the MPCA is operating
The way
today.
things have changed.
The way things have changed. We just received our permit last week, and we have probably about $7,000 more in outside lab costs with this permit, with different analysis that from chlorides to nitrates to mercury to, so anytime you can, back when our initial plant was running by 20th Street Lift Station down by the Shell's warehouse, that was a combined system. That's how they built wastewater plants in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Treated all the rainwater, everything off the street. Well, you know what happened when you got a 2-inch rain.
Mm-hmm.
Those plants were wiped out. So then, I think New Ulm in the late 70s started separating their sanitary from their stormwater. And I don't believe in Minnesota there's too many plants that are doing that. There might be places in the country because they're trying to protect a pristine waterway, and there's really no efficient way to treat that stormwater if it's not going through a treatment plant.
Gotcha. Mr. President, I'd authorize the sump pump connection inspections as directed by the wastewater department.
Second.
Okay, I have motion and second authorizing the sump pump inspections. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you. Next item is 4C. We will consider awarding the contract to demolish the elevated water tank at Herman Heights.
Mr. President, we received, one bid or one quote for the demolition, $64,630 from MR Paving and Excavating. It is slightly higher than the engineer's original estimate, but after their review, they determined that the dollar quote is adequate and appropriate. Their analysis basically says it has to do with the market value of steel salvage. If the price of steel goes up, they can tear it down cheaper. If the price goes down, they got to tear it down more expensive. It's simple math. One of the items that were concerning us is that some of the antennas are not off, but the antenna companies, whether they be cell towers or radio, have been given the proper notice long in advance of what was necessary. We've actually delayed this particular project. We were anticipating tearing it down in December, and so now it's forced back into January. And as mentioned earlier, at least one cell phone company wanted us to wait until February. And so I guess I would recommend that we continue on. If at some point they can't get their antennas off in the appropriate amount of time, it'll just be determined as they forfeit because they couldn't do it fast enough. They've had plenty of time to do it, and we'll get the job done. Interesting to note, if there was a tornado that came through town and took the antennas off of the water tower, they would have temporary towers up and running within 24 hours. So they're dragging their feet. We know they're dragging their feet. We're just saying we have to keep moving, and so the recommendation would be to proceed, accept and award the contract, and keep the project moving forward.
Do you know, did you have other people ask about the project other than MR? Or were they one and only
I'm
that showed up?
Maybe Mr. Brown knows.
You had 6?
We had 6.
Thank you.
M&R approached the 2 companies who...
George, could you go to the microphone, please?
We had 6, and M&R approached 2 of the companies whose only business is taking down water towers,
Okay.
and got bids from them, and then submitted a combined
Gotcha.
bid. M&R will be the contractor general,
With subs.
and then M&R will be responsible for taking out our buildings and our foundations and the pipes and restoring it. This way, we've got Eisler is the company that they've contracted with. That's probably one of the biggest companies that bring down water towers. They say once they're ready to go, they can bring that tower down in a day and a half.
Thank you.
Would they be cutting off little 3x3 squares and selling them on the side at the
I don't think so.
no. Mementos?
I'd move that we award the contract to demolish the elevated water tank at Herman Heights to MR Paving and Excavating in the amount of $64,630.19.
Second.
Motion and second to award the contract for demolishing the water tower to MR Paving. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4D, will consider approving the contract for city attorney legal services with Nierengarten and Hippert, and authorizing the city manager to sign the contract for the New Ulm Public Utilities Commission.
Mr. President, I'd offer that motion to award the contract to Nierengarten and Hippert for a 5-year duration.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to approve the contract with Nierengarten and Hippert for city attorney legal services and authorizing the city manager to sign the contract for the Public Utilities Commission. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. President,
Yes.
If I may, I would like to thank the Public Utilities Commission. Certainly, we have enjoyed working with the New Ulm Public Utilities, and we look forward to continuing to do so.
Very good. Thank you. Next item is 4E, authorize staff to adjust monthly water bills for a PUC customer due to a water meter overreading actual usage. Mr. Borwick.
President Steinke, basically, this was a rather strange occurrence. I hadn't seen anything quite like this since I've been here. I didn't handle it exactly correctly like I should have. I should have brought it to the commission right away. When talking to Jim, we had kind of decided to adjust these, but we're hoping that you agree with this. Basically, it was a rather strange occurrence where in this particular house, it's a rather sizable house as far as the floors and so forth. So they actually had a pressure pump inside the house to help increase the pressure to the top floors. Some of the equipment failed inside the house and was actually pushing water out of the house back through the meter, which the water meters do not go backwards or measure it backwards. And then it would flow back in. Not a good situation. We don't want to see that happen. We've clarified that with the customer and so forth that they need to keep their equipment in good working order. But they did have a plumber in right away. They fixed it as soon as that they, as soon as they knew that they had a problem. We've estimated the usage based on past 3 years actually, and came up with an estimated bill. So basically the difference is $99.33 for September and October. So and the November usage was back to normal. So that's what happened. And staff would ask that you would approve that change.
Okay.
Mr. President, I'd authorize staff to adjust the monthly water bills for a PUC customer due to a water meter overreading actual usage due to the mechanical malfunction of the property owner's check valve in the amount of, $99.33.
Second.
We have motion and second to authorize staff to adjust the monthly water bills as just reviewed. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. President, just to clarify the issue, if it would have been the PUC's meter malfunctioning, staff could have made that adjustment. But because it was the meter was reading perfectly fine, it was the customer's equipment that failed, and so then that throws that. There's a section in the PUC regulations that says staff can't make modifications to bills. The PUC can, but staff can't, and so that's why it seemed like a pretty small thing to really solve on site. But looking at the code, it was like, well, if we're going to follow the rules, if we expect other people to follow the rules, we need to follow the rules too, so.
Okay.
And the adjustment reflects a more accurate reading of what they were using. The
Correct.
issue was the reading,
Yep.
not the
And the
usage.
PUC
Yeah.
can make that adjustment, but staff could not.
Okay. All right, well, we've read the motion in the second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4F, we'll consider a recommendation from the Personnel Committee approving a general wage adjustment for non-unionized full-time public utilities employees.
Yeah, Mr. President and members, the Personnel Committee met and reviewed the proposed general wage adjustment for non-union full-time employees, and is recommending a 2% general wage adjustment. That is also the same number that the city council approved last week. And that would be consistent with the current labor contract also, which is also set at 2%. So it's pretty uniform. One of the items I would just point out is we are subject to pay equity regulations. And quite honestly, if you don't stay consistent across the board, when next year in 2015, when we do that analysis, all of a sudden we're not going to be in sync. You give one group more than the other, and pretty soon you got to make adjustments. So this is uniform across the board.
And funds were included in the budget to cover.
Correct.
I'd move to approve the general wage adjustment for non-unionized full-time employees of 2% with no change in benefit levels, effective January 1, 2015.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to approve the general wage adjustment at 2% for non-unionized employees. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Which brings us to 4G. We'll consider declaring electric meters and transformers as surplus property and authorize disposition pursuant to the requirements of the city code and charter.
Mr. President, I would offer that motion.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to declare said electric meters and transformers as surplus property and disposition pursuant to requirements of the city code and charter. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5A, will consider acceptance of a list of claims paid.
I would move to accept claims paid in the amount of $4,133,580.91.
Second.
Okay, the motion is to accept claims paid. Amount again is $4,133,580.91. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Last item is to consider acceptance of the list of claims to be paid.
Mr. President, I would offer that motion to accept claims to be paid in the amount of $408,384.12.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to accept claims to be paid in the amount of $408,384.12. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Are there any additional comments or questions from the commissioners? Not?
Mr. President, I just had one thing. I failed to remember this when we were going over the administrative report. One of the items that Mr. Cave had suggested I also touch base with on is that in electric production, we've got some EPA regulations that we'll be working on to get into compliance by the end of 2015. And it's kind of like one of those situations where we don't know what they are yet, but we do have consultants, working with us to be knowledgeable by the time we have to comply, that all the rules and regulations will be in place. But it's just one of those items that, as Mr. O'Connor had mentioned, the MPCA is looking at more items that are being controlled in the effluent of the wastewater treatment plant. Well, EPA is looking at more items that go out the stack of the power plant. And so these things are probably always going to be changing and moving, but it is one of those things at the federal level we got to keep on top of. So you may see this come up again with bills and other things, and probably a report in the end of what we have to do to comply. It could be as easy as changing one thing, or it could be something that you got to spend $250,000 to fix. Don't know, but we'll get back to you when we know more information on that.
Okay. If there's no further business, happy holidays, and we stand adjourned.